Is there even such a thing as unnecessary confetti stitching in full coverage cross stitch? I'm not sure. I think there is. I'm Michelle, and this is my romantic tangle, and I am going to talk about confetti in full coverage cross stitch and why I think it's the greatest thing ever. I have an earlier video about tips for confetti stitching on full coverage cross stitch, and that's been one of the most popular videos here on the channel. Lately, I have seen a lot of stitchers getting very, very angry about what they're calling unnecessary confetti. I'm not sure that it's not necessary. I think it's just that they don't want it to be there. Of my projects I have finished, probably the one, if anything is guilty of unnecessary confetti, it is Pyramid of Skulls. There's a lot going on here. There are a lot of colors, and at the time I was stitching them, they did not all make sense. I used a lot of words when I was stitching this. I thought a lot of words when I was stitching this. It was a challenge. It was not easy. I might have called it brutal. I might have called it tedious, but I wanted to stitch it. And at the time that I stitched this, I found it on Etsy. I don't believe there were any stitched examples at that time, but to be fair, I also didn't look. I looked at the picture, I went, I am stitching that. I ordered it and I jumped in and I persevered through the whole thing. And I think the details, even when there were some stitches that didn't make sense to me, I think it was worth it. And that is why I love confetti stitching. I don't always love the process of doing it, but I love what I have when it is done. And if you've watched that first video on confetti stitching tips, except for All Is Calm, the Dimensions Kit with the trees, I have finished all of those that I was struggling with. Confetti stitching is just a different thing. It gives you more detail, more colors. It gives you a totally different stitching experience. If you don't want that stitching experience, I'm not going to try to talk you into it. But when I first started stitching, I fell in love with the highly detailed images, the still lives, the landscapes and houses that had a lot of confetti. And at that time in my life, my husband had just started working graveyard and I was home alone at night with 2 young children. I stress out easily. And I found that it was very, very helpful to sit and worry about where is this next green stitch going to go in relationship to the rest of this tree, than to worry about what is that little tiny noise I just heard outside. So I used at that point my stitching to distract myself. And having something that took a lot of concentration really was exactly what I needed at that point. Now I don't need I'm still home with kids while my husband is working graveyard. The noises at this point are likely to be the kids. And I'm not in that same stressed out place that I was back then, but I still love confetti stitching. And one thing that I have heard, especially with Etsy patterns, is that it's unnecessary confetti. If they had charted it better, it wouldn't be there. But there are a lot of projects by a lot of well-known mainstream, I guess is the word I want, designers that use a lot of confetti. One of my favorites from when I first started cross stitching was Marty Bell. I have finished one of hers. It is, I can't remember the name of it. I can't find it. I stitched it while we were living in our other house, but it is a garden scene and it had very intense confetti stitching. This one is Sanctuary, and I remember buying the pattern. I don't remember starting stitching this, so I can't tell you when I started stitching it or when I stopped stitching it. It is all confetti all the time. And I am working up the nerve to plunge back into this. I mean, my fabric is gridded. I've got my pattern. I've got my floss. There is no reason not to. I did finish Stone Hearth Hutch, which was a Thomas Kincaid that I had abandoned halfway through. And I don't know where it is. I can't find either the finished piece or a picture of it, but it was a lot of confetti. And I love these. This is what makes my heart go pitty-pat. I am also working on Beacon at Daybreak, which is a Dimensions Gold Collection Petites. I've got extra fabric, so it will fit in my Q-snap. And I have been avoiding all this confetti over here, which is the plants, because I haven't been in the mood to stitch it. That's the only valid excuse I have, is that when I have been in a confetti mood, it's been for other confetti and not this confetti. If you don't like stitching confetti, I'm not going to try to talk you into it. There are times when just stitching along with a few different colors, something that is soothing and relaxing, is exactly what's called for. And I tend to alternate between both kinds of projects. I do some single color projects and some simpler projects, and my beloved confetti. I will say that doing large patches of one color is not my favorite thing. I also, in quilting, would prefer to do itty bitty pieces instead of great big pieces. So what if you don't like confetti? What if you have tried it and are never going to do that again? Or what if you have no interest in trying it? It doesn't mean you need to limit yourself to simple projects. Stitchability is a legitimate thing. This is Ironwork Gate Biographs by Barbara and Cheryl. There's a little bit of confetti here in the greenery, nothing extreme, and the rest of it is very stitchable, has limited colors going in places that make sense, and I think the combination of a little confetti and a lot of easier stitching, it gives you the best of both worlds. This one is Crocuses on the Windowsill, and it's a Riolis kit, and I've been calling it done, but there's a little window I need to fill in there, so ignore that. And this one, again, I don't think there's anything in here I would call extreme confetti. It's all well-chosen colors, some really great shading. You don't have to do confetti to have complicated, gorgeous stuff. Personally, I like confetti, and I will keep picking projects with lots of it. If you were looking for tips on how to tackle confetti, I will link to my other confetti tips video. I have figured out a lot through trial and error and slogged through a lot of stuff. One thing, especially if you're doing plants, it does not have to be perfect. Thanks for watching. Let me know, are you a I won't do unnecessary colors type of stitcher, or do you embrace the crazy like I do? I'm Michelle, this is my Romantic Tangle, and I'll be back with you again with more videos soon.